Chapter 17. Expect resistance from within. Whenever I started doing investigative journalism, not everyone who was pro-life agreed with my strategy. Journalists, of course, have been doing undercover work for more than a century. In 1887, Nellie Bly, a 23-year-old journalist, feigned insanity to get admitted to a mental institution. She courageously spent 10 days as a patient to document the institution's abuse of patients. When Joseph Pulitzer published Bly's expose in the New York World, she was treated as a hero, and reformers took up her cause. Government authorities, such as police and military, have been doing undercover work for centuries. Infiltrating one's opponent is a part of any war. Nevertheless, some pro-life leaders, Catholics in particular, use the media around my work as an opportunity to criticize our tactics as unethical. They felt that going undercover was immoral, because it involved deception. Such resistance from my own ranks should not have surprised me. Throughout history, some good souls within every social movement have urged their activist allies to slow down, and they typically do so by criticizing not their cause, but their tactics. During his fight for civil rights, Martin Luther King Jr. was frequently accused of being too controversial and criticized for his tactics. King specifically designed protests that would garner attention. His goal was to shine a light on the indignities blacks suffered from Jim Crow, by forcing it into the forefront of the nation's field of vision. He understood that television, by the 1950s nearly every household had a TV, gave his movement the visibility it needed, but had never had. It was one thing to read about police reacting to his demonstrations with brute force. It was another thing to see it in action. It always pays to understand media. King was just 26 years old when, in 1955, he first gained national attention leading the Montgomery bus boycott. In 1963, he ignored an unjust judicial restriction on his First Amendment rights to speech and assembly by leading a series of speeches and sit-ins in Birmingham, Alabama. He was promptly arrested and imprisoned. Also, in 1963, local ministers and religious leaders, many of whom agreed with King's platform, nevertheless admonished him publicly for what they considered extremist tactics. 8 Alabama clergymen wrote King a public letter criticizing his extreme measures and accusing his actions of inciting hatred and violence. In his famous Letter from a Birmingham Jail, King addressed Christian detractors, specifically the white moderates whose lukewarm acceptance King found more bewildering than outright rejection. While confined here in the Birmingham City Jail, I came across your recent statement calling my present activities unwise and untimely. Actually, we who engage in nonviolent direct action are not the creators of tension. We merely bring to the surface the hidden tension that is already alive. We bring it out in the open, where it can be seen and dealt with. Like a boil that can never be cured so long as it is covered up, but must be opened with all its ugliness to the natural medicines of air and light, injustice must be exposed, with all the tension its exposure creates, to the light of human conscience and the air of national opinion, before it can be cured. The atrocities taking place in abortion facilities must also be brought out in the open, and the injustice exposed, with all the tension its exposure creates. Conflict from within our own community is painful, especially when directed at us. As human beings, we are predisposed to want harmony. Peer pressure is a natural phenomenon that helps individuals within a society know what behavior is and isn't considered appropriate. Ultimately, however, we must care more about our cause than the opinions of those around us, both friend and foe. We have to be willing to have hard conversations about an injustice, to demand better, and even to take peaceful but forceful action to make society better, even at the cost of our own standing in the community, and possibly even at the risk of our own freedom and safety. The criticism Live Action received because we did undercover work felt unfair to me. There had to be Christians in the police force, in government agencies, and in media who had been involved in undercover work long before I ever set foot in an abortion clinic. The FBI's most celebrated undercover agent, Joe Donnie Brasco Peastone, was a Catholic who still went to Mass when he could sneak away from the crew. And yet, I had never even heard of of a public debate about whether or not it was acceptable for Christians in law enforcement to assume undercover roles to investigate criminals and hold them accountable for their crimes. Civil authorities had abdicated their responsibility to investigate and close abortion facilities. The government, whose job it is to protect the most vulnerable against those who could exploit and destroy them, was expressly permitting violence. And this is why live-action investigative work began, because of a failure of the law and law enforcement to protect children in the womb and their mothers from the abortion industry. Undercover reporting was a last resort, but a necessary one. It was not possible to simply call Planned Parenthood's public relations team and expect an honest answer about whether or not they covered up sexual abuse, enabled sex traffickers, or did gender-specific abortions. Of course, they would deny any such accusations. Yet, I know that these abuses were routine and widespread and needed to be exposed. I knew, too, that by exposing them, we would have the opportunities to speak against the ultimate horror in those facilities, the killing of preborn children. Sometimes, resistance from within can come not only from our allies, but from those who are supposed to be neutral parties. As we continued to release our investigative campaigns year after year, our online following grew rapidly, with millions of people beginning to view and share our content monthly. But we soon discovered that we faced resistance as well from entities that were supposed to be neutral partners in our effort to publish our work, namely, the large social media platforms. When several major social media companies took note of how effective we were using their platforms, they violated their own terms of service to block us. Twitter banned both my account and Live Action's account from all advertising. To continue advertising, we were told, we would have to delete ultrasound images, our undercover investigations, all references to abortion, and all criticism of Planned Parenthood, not only from our Twitter feeds, but also on our website. In contrast, Planned Parenthood was permitted to continue advertising, spending hundreds of thousands of dollars a year promoting pro-choice tweets. Other pro-abortion activist groups, such as Repro Action, could also run ads, including an ad calling for pro-life groups to be banned from Twitter. Pinterest was even worse. An insider revealed that its employees had purposefully added Live Action to a porn block list to prevent our content from being shared on that platform. After we made this public, Live Action's account was permanently suspended. We fought the suspension by appealing it and widely publicizing what had happened. Later, Facebook would allow abortionists to fact-check our pages through a third-party fact-checking service and assign strikes to our accounts. The strikes threatened to restrict our ability to reach our own followers. After we proved the abortionists' fact-checking was unfair and incorrect, Facebook removed the strikes but allowed the abortionists to continue to serve as fact-checkers. What do we do when we face opposition, whether from our own allies or supposedly neutral parties? In the words of Jesus, blessed are you when people revile you and persecute you and utter all kinds of evil against you falsely on my account. Matthew 5:11. Jesus warned and consoled his followers that persecution would come. Even so, that doesn't make it easier to absorb, especially when it comes from our allies. Don't be scandalized when resistance from those closest to you may come. Use it as an opportunity to either reaffirm your approach or to evaluate if there is a way you can improve. Long before some Christians accused me of sinning by doing undercover work, I had thought through and prayed about the decision to go undercover and take a stock of my own intentions. The good news is that resistance from within will always have an upside. If the critics are right, they may help us recognize blind spots we have. Or, if they're wrong, they will give us an opportunity to build resilience and determination to forge ahead. The key is never to use criticism from either our allies or our opponents as an excuse to give up instead of grow. We should examine our consciences, check our intentions, and continue to fight. True character is forged in the hard work of perseverance as we fight to serve others, especially when those closest to us may stand in our way.